This is something that I was thinking about mentioning in my previous video, but it would have made the video much too long, and it would have freaked everybody out and distracted from the point. So I'm going to just say it in its own standalone thing here. I was asked by a subscriber about, you know, the problem of women murdering children, and the fact that we seem not to punish it. We seem to excuse that that type of criminal behavior, the criminal violence, the murder of little tiny children, when it's done by a mother. I'm not talking about abortion. I'm talking about after, you know, like 4 months old, 4 years old, 3 years old, and so on. I was asked by someone who was actually appeared to be very seriously pained by the problem of our society's lack of concern, lack of care when the murder of little children is done by women, and how we can affect this. How can we do something about this? And I gave him a fairly pessimistic answer. It was pessimistic and optimistic in different ways. The reality, though, is that our society's values are the values of women. Women are the controllers of what I call social reality. Social, not like trucks driving groceries, or whether the crops fail because of freezing or too much rain, or, you know, whether there's a heat wave in the summer. That's real reality. That's concrete reality. Social reality is our narrative structure that we live in. The storytelling of that comes through the media, through fiction and through so-called news and so on. It's a narrative. It's a storytelling that forms the culture, which is where we live as intelligent thinking, well, intelligent to a point, social animals. So the storytelling of our society, the culture, is largely under the control of women. It is women's narrative that is the predominant or the dominant narrative in our society. So, you know, what is socially acceptable? What is a real man? What's a bad woman, etc.? That's in the province, in the control of female consensus widely throughout the society. Which means, and that's a terrifying thought when you think about its implications, the disconcern, the excusing of female-committed infant murders, a woman who killed her 3 little children. We live in a society that wants women to keep killing little children with impunity, with no consequence. And if I was wrong about that, then the woman in North Dakota who killed their 3 little infants, supposedly because to protect the 4th one, right? Killed 3 to protect the 4th one from not being loved enough by the father or something like that. If I was wrong about my assertion, which is that we live in a society that wants women to kill little children with impunity, then there would be splashed all throughout the mainstream media outrage and demands for that woman's head on a stick. But we won't see that. We'll see either radio silence or a number of stories excusing her behavior by claiming she's in fact the victim, although she's actually the murderer. So we, as a society, live in a narrative structure that is largely under the control of women. It is the female consensus that forms social reality, and in that female consensus, it is correct and desired that women murder little children with impunity, that continues. That's just fine, no problem. We want that as a society, and that's going to freak a lot of people out. They're going to call me a misogynist and all kinds of stuff. If I'm wrong, why isn't there in mainstream outrage and the demand for her head on a platter? And there isn't, is there? So, in my last video, I asked the question, which mainstream media outlet would begin spinning a narrative that that Brittany Pilkington, who murdered 3 young children, is in fact the victim. Begin excusing the murder of little toddlers by a woman. And the winner appears to be Washington Post. Here's a segment of the story. I'll put a link to it in the low bar. Gosley, that's the lawyer, said he won't likely seek the death penalty because of the background of Brittany Pilkington, including the fact that she had been dominated by her husband, Joseph Pilkington. See, there's the blame transferal. Who had been her semi-stepfather at one point. Gosley said she apparently feared how the boys would grow up. There's a fear, so there's a threat in her. She's a victim, right? And described her daughter Haley as her only friend. So Brittany, who murdered 3 little children, we already have the beginnings of she's the victim, and it's actually the fault of the father who wasn't present at the time of the murder. Washington Post is the winner. Now, remaining is the second question I asked, which is, which major feminist figure or major feminist platform, media outlet such as Jezebel or whatever, is going to be the one to step up and begin demanding loudly and persistently that Brittany Pilkington be treated equally to the way a man who murdered 3 children would be treated. And of course, we know feminists are going to do that because, as we keep being told, feminism is a movement seeking equality. And if they, went along and in the narrative of excusing it and portraying her as a victim, then, that would indicate that feminism encourages and supports the killing of children, especially by women, or exclusively by women. And of course, that would be monstrous and insane. So we know that won't happen. We know they're obviously going to begin to demand that Brittany Pilkington be treated equally to the way a man would be treated who killed little children, because feminism is a movement seeking equality. Anyway, we're waiting for that. That's the yet unanswered question of which feminist platform or public figure will do that, and I look forward to finding out. And thanks very much for listening, and as always, have a lovely day.